My name is Justice Papana Aqua. I'll be your guide. And the tour will take us about 45 minutes or more. In the course of the tour, your questions and comments are welcomed. First of all, I'll give you a brief history about this building. And from here, we shall visit the dungeons, the condemned cells, the door of no return, the former slave market. We have a lot to see and a lot to hear today. Right, this building dates back to the 17th century. The British built it around 1665, and it took them over 100 years of rebuilding, demolition and addition before the English came out with something like this. Today, this structure is over 353 years now. Historically, this land changed hands so many times among the Europeans. The fact is, the Europeans fought among themselves for this piece of land. They realized that whoever occupies this land controls the gold and the slave trade. So when you control the trade, the basic thing is you'll make money for your company or your country. So interestingly, this space changed hands about 5 times among the Europeans. The Portuguese were the first to occupy the space. And let's say the Portuguese were the first to explore West Africa. They got to Ghana around 1471 at Elmina. And 1482, the Portuguese constructed the first European structure in sub-Saharan Africa by name Elmina Castle. 1555, they occupied this space and called it Cabo Crosso. Cabo Crosso is a Portuguese word. English, you can say Short Cape. Later, when England took over, they renamed it to Cape Coast. So when you look at the nature of this coast, it looks like a cape. So this area had the name Cape Coast from the geographical feature. The actual name for this town is Ogwa. That is a native name. So Cape Coast is more European, let me put it that way. Yeah, so 1555, the Portuguese occupied the space. 1653, it changed hands to Sweden. So Sweden took over and constructed a fortress. They named it Karlisberg. They used it as a trading post. They got to some point. Denmark also fought Sweden and kicked them out. 1660, the Dutch also kicked out the Danes. And 1664, the English also kicked out the Dutch. You know, that same year, something coincided between the British and the Dutch in North America and in West Africa also. So that same year, a colony by name New Amsterdam in North America also changed hands to England. And when the English took over, they called it New York. It was that same year that this place also changed hands from Holland to England. So when the English took over, they developed that small fortress into a castle. And interestingly, the English lived here for more than 200 years, 1664 to 1957. They only vacated when we had independence from them. So that is something brief about the structure. And also when we talk about castles and forts along the coast of West Africa, it is estimated that we had about 50 of them. And out of that 50, Ghana had more than 40. So interestingly, Ghana had about 95% of all the castles and forts West Africa had. And some of you will wonder why Ghana had that much. We had that much for one good reason: gold. In the history books, they tell us that the Europeans came to West Africa to spread the gospel. But that is not the issue. They came because of gold. You see, you realize that at some point in time, the more gold you had determined how richer your country was. So now the Spanish and the Portuguese started the exploitations. Because I didn't say exploration, but they started with the exploitations. We know what the Spanish did to the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, and all that, looted them of their gold. The Europeans also realized that West Africa was the source of the gold. You see, geographically, North Africa is closer to Europe than West Africa. So the Europeans bought gold from the North Africans. But the North Africans were middlemen. So the price was a bit higher. And again, at some point in time again, two religions were fighting for dominance. when the Christians and the Muslims were fighting, North Africa was dominated by the Moors. And as we know, at some point in time, Portugal and Spain were all occupied by Moors. Now, the Europeans could no longer use the Mediterranean Sea to India. They couldn't do business with the North Africans, so they had to search another route to get to the source of the gold. And also, I'll give another account. Have you ever heard of Mansa Musa? Exactly. So, Mansa Musa was an emperor of the old Ghana Empire. We know he was a Muslim, and it is even believed that he established the first university in the world at Timbuktu, where he employed Arabs. And from some of the journals of some of the Europeans who visited his empire, they made account that when you visit this guy's palace, he had docks. The color of the docks were made up of solid gold. He was a Muslim, and every faithful Muslim would have to travel to Mecca. It is recorded in the journals in Mecca that whenever Mansa Musa travels to Mecca, the value of gold in the Middle East drops. He did similar in Egypt. For about 25 years, he collapsed the economy in Egypt. This news about him spread all over the world, including Europe. So the Europeans got to know that gold could be found south of the Sahara. And unfortunately, Mansa Musa's empire collapsed as a result of his generosity and as a result of the invasion by the Arabs. And just last year, Forbes did an estimation on Mansa Musa's wealth. Interestingly, he is the richest man ever to live on this earth. He was worth about 400 billion US dollars. That was the amount of gold this man accumulated around the 12th century. So our name, Ghana, was adapted from the old Ghana Empire, which means the land of gold. So Kwame Nkrumah intentionally adapted the name Ghana. So formerly we were Gold Coast, but when we had independence, we changed it to Ghana. So the Europeans came to West Africa, they got to Ghana, and realized that whatever they heard was true. Henceforth, they called the country the Gold Coast. So that is how come we had all the forts and castles along our coast. But today, my emphasis will be on the Atlantic slave trade. From day one, Cape Coast Castle was built for the slave business, not the gold business. It is simple. Around the 1700s, you could make a lot of cash from transporting captives from West Africa to the New World and by using captives on plantation farms. And I also tell people that capitalism had its root from the transatlantic slave trade. Now businesses, companies, enterprises sprang up. And these enterprises made a fortune out of the slave business. And as I speak to you now, some of these enterprises or some of these companies exist. How do we know some of them? Should I mention some few names? I can talk about Bank of America. Yeah, JP Morgan Chase. You know, Bank of America gave financial assistance to the plantation owners. And many of the plantation owners saved their money with Bank of America. Even Bank of America accepted collateral in the form of slaves. Yes, we can equally talk about JP Morgan Chase. We can talk about Lehman Brothers. We can talk about Unilever. Yes, we can also talk about Georgetown University.
Brown University.
Exactly. And one more thing I want to include, I can talk about Barclays Bank. I can talk about Lloyds Bank. Lloyds Bank in England actually started this thing we call insurance. Gave insurance to ship owners. So before you transported your captives from West Africa to the East Coast or to the West Coast of America, or to the Caribbean or to the West Indies, when some of them died, they went back to Lloyds Bank, and Lloyds Bank paid them for the losses they made during transit. I can equally say that of Wall Street in New York. You know, Wall Street is Wall Street today as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. It started as an auction for slaves, where people made it their business to sell slaves. Others made it their business not to sell their slaves outright, but to rent them out or to lease them out for a profit. So in the course of this tour, we shall witness how others suffered for others to thrive. And I can also tell you for a fact that Western Europe, America, is what it is today as a result of the exploitations. Both human and natural resources were stolen to enrich these nations. And in the course of this tour, we shall know why. Any questions or comment before we visit the male dungeons? Right, so I'll take you through the male slave dungeons. It's a bit slopey and slippery. For the time being, we keep to the left on our way in, and let's take it easy also. Okay.